All right, so Jesse, let's jump into today's conversation. We started to talk a little bit before I hit the record, but just so we can give a little bit of context to the audience, first off, how long have you been in the business of real estate and where do you sell?
Yeah, I've been in the business since March 2021. That's when I got licensed. I was part-time from March to July of 2021. Then I just went full-time. Before, I was a project manager for construction, and I'm in the Southern California area, in Los Angeles, and I tend to cover LA County, OC County, and San Bernardino County. And I found you maybe in 2022, and I've been following your YouTube ever since. And it wasn't until recent that I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna jump the gun. I'm gonna go into coaching. I need this.
It's a big step. It's a tough market you're in, and we're going to talk about all of that in today's episode. So I appreciate you sharing that. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're in one of the toughest markets in the country. Let
Yeah.
me ask you. Let me ask you this before we get into too much detail. I am very, very curious to find out, like, when you got into this business, a lot of people get into it for, I don't know, different reasons, but most of them don't realize what they're actually getting into. They don't realize how hard it's going to be. They don't realize that your friends and family aren't going to save you. They don't realize that if you just sit around, that people aren't going to call you to come list their house. What
Yeah.
was the biggest aha for you, if you could remember back getting into the business and saying, wow, I had no idea it was going to be maybe this hard? Did you have that happen to you when you first got started?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before I got into the business, I was following some big names like Kevin Sturdivant, Ryan Pineda,
Yeah.
Ryan Serhant, a bunch of these YouTube people that are in the business. And from the outside looking in, you can tell it's a sexy business. You can tell it's glamorous. It looks amazing, but I think a lot of what's perceived over YouTube and Instagram is highlights only, literally only highlights. And so I think one of my big aha moments was when I got licensed and um, I I started working on my first deal. It was my best friends. They were purchasing a commercial property, and it was just headache after headache because it was a 4 month escrow. It was a
Mm.
$4 million commercial property, and it was like anything you could imagine that can go wrong in a transaction went wrong. Two notices to perform, talks about cancellation because my friends were waiting on doing their taxes, and
Mm.
just things that don't really get perceived and don't really come out on the media, and just I guess is the hard and nitty gritty of the business, but also it's if you find yourself inconsistent with prospecting and lead generating, it could really I guess hold you back from your full potential and hold you back from taking your business to the next step. So I guess to answer your question, looking from the outside in, I didn't think the business was about prospecting and lead generating.
Right. That's what I want to talk about. That
Yeah.
right, what you just said is my point. My point is
Yeah.
most people that think about getting into real estate, they think about, yeah, most people, when they get into real estate, they only think about it in terms of working with the actual client. And that's all they think about. They think about, oh, I can show homes and oh yeah, I
Mhm.
can meet with the, I can, they don't understand that's like literally 5% of this career. The other 95% is spent in activities that no one has any idea
Yeah.
about what they're about to get into. And that 95% of our actual job is sales activities that most
Mm.
people, had they known, probably wouldn't have gotten in this business in the first place. They don't
Right.
know that they're going to spend 80, 90% of their time prospecting, deal with rejection, learning how to sell, learning how to
Yeah.
present, learning how to follow up, learning how to get in front of potential clients. They only think about this industry when they have a client. That's the easy part. A monkey that's shaved down could show houses, right? I mean, that's the
Sure.
easy part. The part is actually generating opportunities. So now
Yeah.
you have this epiphany that most agents don't know until they get into the business. When you got into the business, what were you trying to do to go out there and generate new business, to get clients, to generate leads?
At first, I started with everyone in my contacts, everyone in my phone contacts. So I would call, I would text, I would literally just work my sphere because I joined Keller Williams first, and then I joined Century 21. And at Keller Williams, they had a paid coaching program that didn't really turn me on. And so the message that I got at the beginning of my career was just call your friends, call your family, and see if you can generate any business from there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it's unfortunate that either that's the message, like, well, just pick up your phone, look at all those people, just call them. And
Right.
most of us are like, well, okay, I don't want to come off as that annoying, needy, desperate realtor and beg my friends for business. What else can I do, Mr. Broker or Mr. Whatever? And they say, well, we'll do social media, honey. Do some social media. Put your name out there. Build your brand. Things like that, right? I just think that there's a lack of tactical, practical advice coming from the leaders in our industry, and we're really, really doing a bad job setting up new agents in a way that doesn't help them succeed right out of the gate. So you start doing that. How did that work? What did you do? What did you say? Were you calling them, or were you just like, there's got to be a different way? Or did you start calling your friends and asking them for business?
Yeah, so I did start calling my friends and asking for business.
Yeah.
And fast forward to today, none of the people I called on gave me any business.
Sure. Yeah. Jesse, you're brand new in the business. We love you. You're our boy. But man, why don't you get a little bit of experience on your belt, and then we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Exactly. So
so what did you
it
do?
was
How did you get business?
so I took the other route and I started creating content on social media.
There you
And a
go.
lot of the business, fast forwarding to now, has come from social media, from
Yeah.
Instagram specifically. But it didn't all just come from me posting something and I got a client immediately. There had to have been a conversation, and there had to have been me asking that prospect questions to qualify them before I even consider either selling their home or helping them buy a home. And so um, I went that route. I went the social media route. And from July 2021 to now, it's been about 40 homes that I've sold, and maybe 37 to 36 of those homes have come from complete strangers on social media.
So let's talk about it. Let's break that down, because I think a lot of people, they'll hear that and say, oh, that sounds really, really sexy. And then they start to just post. They almost have like this entitlement where they just start to post stuff on social media, and they just kind of sit back and think to themselves, well, just isn't working. I heard this Jesse guy in this podcast, and he said he did social media and he sold 40 houses in LA. Let's really talk to the audience about how hard it is, the type of content you're creating, what it actually takes. Because really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you're generating conversations, just that whatever you're doing, that you do it such that it's consistent, that you're
Right.
actually bringing an expertise or value to the marketplace. Because if you're not, nothing's going to happen. I don't care if you're picking up the phone, you're knocking doors, you're networking, you're sending mailers, you're doing so. It doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. So walk us
Mm-hmm.
through what you had to do to generate these conversations, and then we'll get into some conversion.
Yeah. So I would do from 3 to 5 reels a week to every day posting on the story.
Yep.
And what I found in the beginning of the, I guess, social media career that I started was um, your friends and family aren't your biggest supporters. Your biggest supporters are going to be complete strangers online, or I don't know, people that you just meet on the street and you pass on information. But it was a consistent road that I went through, and still to this day, I still post maybe 2 reels to four reels a week, consistent on the story. And the strategy that I have is I create Instagram reels that are broad enough to bring people into the tent. And once I have them in the tent, meaning their followers, I create personable stories and relatable stories and things to get a reaction out of, to help spark up a conversation. And the people that are typically hanging around in my stories are going to be people that have seen that home tour that I posted, have seen that real estate tip that I posted, have seen the top 9 cities to consider moving into in the Los Angeles County. And so when I speak to them, it first starts off as a conversation about, I don't know, it could be about a car or a food that I'm having, but then it turns into a conversation of real estate.
Sure.
And so um yeah, that's how my story has been for the past couple of years. It's definitely a dark and lonely road. I will say that because at times um it can be inconsistent.
Yeah.
Uh and especially if you get comfortable and you start seeing videos getting traction, but views and likes and shares are not equivalent to how many transactions you're closing.
That's
You
right.
can have you can have a million view video and get zero transaction out of it, or you can have a 2,000 view video and get maybe 2 transactions out of it.
That's right. That's right. And that it all comes down to content strategy. So let me break this down. So number one, your focus was on building the right audience, because what you just said is exactly right. When I see people creating content on social media, there isn't a strategy, and they are only concerned with the vanity metrics. So how many
Right.
views, how many likes did I get, how many follows? And I say, well, wait a minute. In this case, we're talking about real estate agents. I say, well, why are you making viral videos about the Hawk Tuit girl? Like I thought you wanted
Man,
to.
that
So watch. This is gonna make a lot of sense, right? So it's like, you're. Are you concerned with? Are you concerned with like likes and followers, or are you concerned with
mhm,
growing an audience of people who want to buy and sell a house? Because
right.
it's very different. So when people think about
Yep.
social media, they're just thinking about pure vanity metrics. I would
Yeah.
much rather, and people that have followed me online have seen me transform over the years as far as my content, in
Yeah.
that I would much rather have 1,000 views of my ideal client avatar than 1,000,000 views of someone who's never going to do business with me.
100%. 100%.
So you first and foremost said, okay, I'm going to build an audience around people in my area that potentially are interested in real estate. So you start making real estate content, and that's
Yeah.
broad. And so the
Hmm.
followers that you're getting were following you for real estate content. That's
Yep.
huge. That's what you said.
Hmm.
Then
Yep.
number two, then as you built these followers, you're making stories so these people could see you in action as this real estate professional. So these people are following you. We don't know who and when they're going to buy a house. All that we know is that the followers you do have, we know they're interested in real estate. So far so good.
Yeah.
Then we start making
Hmm.
daily stories, and we start posting, and we start engaging with this audience that we know are interested in real estate. So then what ends up happening over time is, as these people get closer and closer to a transaction, you've already won the top of mind awareness from all of the content that you've poured into them over the past however long. Yeah. That then sparks something in them to say, well, maybe they send you a DM. Maybe they comment on
Yeah.
one of your posts and they say, Jesse,
Hmm.
can we have a quick conversation? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what leads you into that initial conversation. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
What do you want to add to this conversation? Because I think some of the things I just said maybe spark something in you, and I don't want to make sure. Want to make sure we don't cut you off on that.
No, I think you're nailing it. For the most part, I do see other real estate agents creating content around, I don't know, just a bunch of nonsense, if you ask me.
Nonsense. Yeah.
Um, and it's not really putting yourself in a position that you're the professional in your market. I think that's what's most important. If you're coming from a standpoint of coming off as informative, coming off as professional, and being that person that I don't know, maybe if a family's having a conversation about selling their home or buying a home, they're likely going to call the person, or they're likely going to reach out to the person that is posting informational content versus posting nonsense, complete nonsense. And so it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole of posting nonsense because it's easy. But if you can be very specific with the type of content that you can post, then you can get some really good people reaching out to you. And a lot of the content or a lot of the, I guess, ways I perceive myself on social media is sort of I'm attracting my tribe.
That's right.
I'm I'm gathering the people that are okay with my personality and are okay with um the type of realtor that I'm at that I'm at. And so um yeah, I see lots of people, it, especially in the LA area. There's so many people that are trying to come off as a realtor in this, and it's not going too well. And so I'm maybe 2, 3 weeks into reverse selling, and in phase one was like uh, a, a freaking truck hit me,
Mm,
and a really like aha moment, because before that I was doing stupid cloud CMA listing presentations and I was not getting any of the listing appointments that I was going after. And so I sort of turned to my office and I was like, "Hey, like how do I do this? How do I make this happen?" And so the people that are coaching they're not doing day-to-day sales, or they haven't done day-to-day sales. And so it's hard to learn from someone that isn't really having these conversations. It's all theory.
that's
And
right.
so it was really eye-opening going through phase one and really learning about how to structure a listing presentation, because in those 2 to 3 weeks, I've been able to land three listings, and that's when I reached out to you. I sent you a DM on Instagram. I'm like, dude, I freaking love you. Your listing, phase one listing works. I got 3 listings, and so I think that's going to be a really a big game changer for me. And that's phase one out of, I think, phase 5 phases. And
Yeah.
so for me to already see the results taking place, I'm just really stoked, and I'm really curious about having this conversation in maybe, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, four
Yeah.
months, just to see where I'm at. Because um, when I first reached out to your team, I was like, dude, I'm a big chicken when it comes to cold calling. I'm a big chicken when it comes to having conversations with people over the phone. And I want to cut that off. I need someone, or I need something to just help break this stupidityness that I have in my mind. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to continue this journey with reverse selling. And I mean, so far the listing presentation is game changing. I can't say it enough. Really game changing, because the last listing appointment I went on, um, the seller interviewed 2 other agents, and the seller calls me maybe a week after the listing presentation. Mind you, I got the listing signed when I went,
Hmm.
and the no handcuff agreement is just genius,
Yeah.
genius. And so she calls me a week later and she says, but yeah, I landed the seller calls me, and I ended up landing the triplex, saying, hey, there was no competition. And I'm gonna end up listing that property tomorrow. We're gonna be going live tomorrow, and we're gonna list at 950. And I landed it at a 6% commission. So it's so far it's really game changing what you have to offer for agents.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the kind words. Let's break that. I mean, you deserve all the credit. I mean, you're the one that has to go through and actually change. You have to
Right.
personally change in order to get a different result. So you deserve the credit. So I want to break down some of that stuff you just talked about. My, I'm curious when you said I'm a chicken when it comes to reaching out to people that I don't know over the phone.
Yeah.
Um, but you don't have, or maybe you do, I don't know. Do you have the same fear creating content and putting that in front of people that you don't know? Now, I believe I know what the answer is, but I'm curious, why is one bring so much fear when the other doesn't?
Uh, yeah, great question. Creating content doesn't really give me a fear, just because I can always go back and edit things out that I don't like. Maybe that's why. Um,
Why
but
else do you think?
it could be lack of skills, where I haven't really learned how to pre-qualify an actual seller lead, or even last week you were talking about disqualifying them. I didn't know any of this vocabulary before, and so actually getting to learn it and being able to uh, see other conversations happening around it
Hmm.
is a little bit eye-opening, because when I create content, I'm not creating something new.
Yeah.
It's all things that are already out there. I'm just making it my own, and so now same with me. Now that I can actually see some of the conversations that are happening, I can now identify how that person, that agent, is having the conversation with the prospect, and see if it's actually a legit person that wants to sell or not.
Yeah. Well, one has to do with when you make content, you put a piece of content out there and there's no real feedback loop. If we're having a voice to voice conversation, now we're in real time, which now brings an emotion to the activity. Right. And so
Right.
that emotion is what we're scared of. What if they say something, I don't know
Yeah.
what to say? All this head trash that we all deal with puts us in a place where I don't want to do that. It's the unknown. Let me do what the safe thing is. And so we do a bunch of passive marketing, a bunch of passive lead generation, stuff that
Yeah.
won't result in us feeling insecure about what it is that we're doing. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. I guess my next question is, what was it that, going back to the social side, it seems like it's really working well for you. What had you look at adding another channel? And in this case, we're talking about direct outbound prospecting. Why did you make a business decision to add that to your business?
I think it'll make my first flow, being social media, more powerful. Because if I have the skills to talk to a complete stranger over the line on ready to go, then I know that I can sort of tweak and enhance my first flow. So the second flow is going to be cold outbound phone calls.
Yeah.
And so that was the main reason, to sharpen up the first flow. But I know, continuing on with the training, uh, I see success in the office.
Yeah.
People cold calling expireds, people having those conversations, and these are the people that have their doors closed, and on their door says, "Don't bother me, I'm prospecting."
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the that's the beast I want to become.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you said that because the reality is, you may or may not know this, but when you start to really get good with outbound prospecting, it brings a level of uh, control in your business because
Right.
everything else we don't have any control. We don't know when someone's going to hit you up on Instagram and say I want to buy a house. It's just
Right.
random. It's super
Mm-hmm.
random.
Mm-hmm.
So this might bring you a sense of peace, a sense of
Right.
consistency where you say, okay, I know with direct outbound, I can generate 2, 3, 4 listings per month. And then with my content, the other thing that's going to really help you is as you're having conversations with people that you don't know, and they're then looking you up and they see your content, it helps bring all that together. So I really look at content too as a great lead follow-up tool. Because if I can get
Right.
these people that I'm talking to and I can add them on my Instagram and have my Instagram do all the follow-up for me and do all the nurturing for me,
Right.
what a powerful, powerful thing. So as you're starting to prospect, just keep that in the back of your mind. As you're engaging with people, as you're generating leads over the phone, let's make sure that we introduce them to your content to say, hey, I made this video, might really help based on our conversation. That's another conversation, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, I go back to what I said at the beginning of the episode. It really is irrelevant how we are generating conversations. What is relevant is how we
Mm-hmm.
handle that conversation that may
Mm-hmm.
lead you to a listing appointment. And
Right.
so it doesn't matter if you got a referral, social media, cold call, whatever. When you
Yeah.
get to the listing appointment, all of that now becomes irrelevant.
Absolutely.
Now is the real time to say, okay, how is it that the seller is perceiving you such that they're going to decide to either pay you a lot of money to represent them in the sale of their home or they're going to hire someone else. So let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
Before you and I started working together, I am curious what your listing presentation consisted of, because here's what I know. Most agents make the entire listing presentation. They show up, they throw up, and then they hope that they win the listing. They get there and they start telling the seller all about, my company's been in business for so many years, and
Right.
here's our value. Here's our mission statement. It's all
Yeah,
I.
yeah, yeah.
And the seller just sits there and says, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh,
Hmm.
cool. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, listen, I really like this today. Leave this with us. We're going to go back and think it over, and we'll let you know. And we all know you never end up hearing from them again. They fall into the witness protection program and they end up hiring somebody else. And you're saying, what did I do wrong? I thought it was really good. They really liked me. And you end up not winning the business. So give us your
Yeah.
version of what you were doing, and then we'll talk about what you're doing now.
I was following a lot of the Mike Ferry script, a lot of the
Mm,
Mike Ferry setup. And at the listing presentation, it was go through the home, try to build rapport, sit down at a table, show them comps, try to get a listing signed.
yeah.
That was literally the structure of what I knew before joining. And so now joining is quite a bit of a refreshing take because it's sort of a conversational, and it's not a presentation.
That's
It's a
right.
conversation. The way that you structured your listing presentation, and so that was probably one of the biggest shifts that I had because at a listing presentation prior, I would present and I would throw up, like you said, just bad throw up in front of a seller. I'm with Century 21. We're this, we're
We're
that,
the
this
best.
and
We're the,
that.
yeah.
Dude, now is a completely different uh, listing appointment.
Let me
It's
say this.
not even,
Let me say
yeah,
this, and then we'll break it down. I
yeah,
think what you're saying, and this is the biggest difference in what it is that I think you're referring to, is
yeah.
most agents are trained to go and meet with the seller and try to convince the seller why they should do business with them. And what you're learning is how to have a conversation so the seller discovers for themselves that they should hire you. This is a huge, huge difference. One is,
Yeah,
let
man.
me tell you all the reasons on why you should hire me. Blah, 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 blah. Our approach says, well, we're going to actually ask Socratic style questions so the
Yeah.
seller, on their own accord, comes up with their own idea that hiring you is in their best interest and you don't have to say a word. That's what you're saying, yeah?
One of the biggest things I learned at the beginning of this was there's a mule and there's a magician. And I've been a mule for the past 2, 3 years, man.
We all
And
have.
now flipping it and becoming a magician, freaking game changer, dude. Game changer.
Yeah,
And you can see it in the body language and in the conversation that you
that's
have with the
right.
person. It's really it's mind blowing. At this listing presentation that I mentioned, the triplex, it was a husband and wife. It was mom's property. Mom passed, and I've been speaking to the wife. Husband was there because he's a shot caller. And as soon as I saw the husband, very turned off. Body language was very like closed off, didn't look me in the eye. And I knew he was the one I had to work. And I knew
Mm,
he was the one that needed the magician strategy. And so throughout the the listing presentation, I caught that on, and although I was giving the wife attention, I was giving a little more attention to the husband. And so he went from not looking me in the eye to looking me in the eye to giving me high fives throughout the listing presentation, and he ended up signing the listing agreement at the end. Yeah,
yeah, it's
crazy,
powerful.
man.
So Jesse, what would you say are maybe one or two things that make what you've learned more impactful, or maybe just work better to make this connection with the seller such that they feel comfortable and confident hiring you? What have you learned? What parts of the listing presentation have you learned that's helped you in the last couple of weeks?
From the get-go, it has to be setting the agenda because it sets the pace for the actual appointment. Setting the agenda is probably one of the most powerful things. After you walk through the property
Yeah.
and you say, hey, these are the 3 things that I want to talk about, that was probably game changing. And then also the presentation about showing comps and showing the percentages of where each of the buyers are
So the pricing
is
presentation.
the pricing presentation is is really eye-opening to a seller, because I sold my own property recently,
Sure.
and seeing, I mean, being in both of the positions, it's really mind-blowing. But I would say it's the actual setting the agenda and showcasing the actual pricing strategy. Those
That's
were the
right.
two game-changing, man.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree, by the way. So now as you move forward, as you're building these skills, you've got two different lead generation strategies going. You've got direct cold outreach, and then you have direct inbound. You've got both of the best worlds, right? You've got them both going on at the same time. Um, is your plan to keep growing both of those so that you can continue to scale your business from here? Is that the plan?
The plan is to continue growing first flow, which is social media, and start sprinkling on cold outreach.
Yeah,
And I'm not going to introduce any other flow until I can master the cold outreach. I'm going to just take it one step at a time. I haven't done anything else. I haven't done postcards. I haven't done door knocking. None of that shit.
yeah,
And so, um, until I can actually master this, then I'll begin to introduce more flows.
yeah.
Yeah.
Smart. And so, with that being said, what is your goal for 2024 as far as transactions?
Yeah. So far for the year, I'm at 140,000 GCI. The goal is to get to 320. And right now, pending, I have about uh, maybe about 40,000 GCI. And this listing will get me, if I double end it, can get me about 45, 50 GCI. So I think I can make it happen. I can do it with another
Great.
8 to 12 sides. And yeah, the goal is 320 for the year.
So 320, will that be your from an income perspective, will that be your biggest year ever in your career?
Biggest year, yeah, yep, biggest year. Last year I did uh it was 190, I think. The year before that, 2022 was 240. So if I do 320, it'll be the biggest year.
It's pretty exciting. That's awesome, man.
Crazy exciting, man.
It's great.
Crazy exciting. And I'm not counting the property that I sold because it's not GCI. But
Right.
I mean, so far it's been the biggest year of my life. It's really crazy, man.
Good for you. And I know it's exciting. You probably can't wait to wake up every morning just to get back after it. And I know that feeling as you're building. It's got to be, you've got to just feel with just so much passion and excitement. Good for you.
Yeah, man, exactly. I go to bed and I wake up and I don't. The other day on Saturday, I had an appointment at 8 a.m. and I forgot to set an alarm Friday night, and my body just woke me up. It's the crazy when you have this body high going. It's unstoppable. I love it. It's a different type of high. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And that's what's so great about putting in the work and
Uh-oh.
getting, yeah, we got you. That's what's so great about putting in the work
I
and
can hear
getting
you.
results. You know what I mean? It's like you just
Mhm.
feel like you can't be stopped. And so momentum builds momentum. So I guess last one for me. If you could go get licensed all over again, just rewind to 2021, and you see that Jesse come out of there and he passed the exam, and you pass him in the parking lot as he's walking back to his car. What are what are you telling that Jesse, knowing what you know now? What maybe some of advice would you give that Jesse that other agents could learn from right now?
I mean, it would be nice to fast forward to today and apply what I'm learning today. But I mean, at the beginning, everyone around you is going to say, become a listing agent, become a listing agent. Don't be a buyer agent. You're going to waste your time being a buyer agent. And so I heard it all around me, but I didn't know. I didn't know how to actually become a listing agent. And so I went on to uh, be a buyer agent, and I experienced it. And to a way, it was good because I did get a little bit of the flow of a transaction and how a transaction works. But at the same time, man, I feel like I've wasted so many hours, so much energy helping buyers get into a home. And so if I were to get licensed and tell that person right now, I would say really learn the anatomy of a listing presentation. Uh, because if you can learn that anatomy and how that can flow, you'll stick out from the rest. Everyone here in LA, maybe there's a good 10%, 5% top agents that are good, but a good chunk of the agents don't have a good locked in listing presentation.
Yeah.
And so that would probably be number one, to actually know how to achieve a great listing presentation. Um, and then second is just going to be, um, people equal money. So the more people you talk to, the more money you're going to get.
That's right. It's real simple, and I agree. I mean, that's why our entire coaching platform switched. I put the listing presentation first now because it's
Yeah.
like I don't care how you're getting there. I'm not going to fight with agents on, well, I want to do lead generation like fine. What I care about is when you get to a listing presentation that you stand out as the obvious choice. So that's why
Yep.
we make that the first thing that we teach an agent when they come in my world is like, that's all we're going to focus on. From there, then you can learn language patterns and et cetera, et cetera. But man, this has been great. I've got a page full of notes, Jesse. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm sure people in the comments will be like, man, thank you so much. So if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? Is Instagram the best place?
Yeah. Instagram, you can find me Jesse Tech. Or you Google my name, Jesse Onate, you'll see my website. Instagram's probably the best place. So if anyone has any questions, you can always DM.
Appreciate you, Jesse, very much.
Thanks, man. It was good talking to you.